Charity Vialis spent months fighting for safety, submitting pleas, fearing for her children's lives after documented abuse by her husband. She sought full custody in a painful divorce, the final hearing coming just one day before the unthinkable. On December 3rd, law enforcement discovered her body and the bodies of her 6-year-old twin son and daughter, shot dead in their own home. A welfare check turned into a nightmare. For a family begging for protection, the thin promises of the system collapsed into a deadly silence. Now, a community mourns, demanding answers, while innocence lies cold in the dark. Will Charity's ex be arrested? Tonight, we take a look. Meanwhile, in a crowded Manhattan courtroom, Luigi Manion sat at counsel table with his supporters in the gallery as surveillance video played. Images of a sidewalk and some of the immediate aftermath that we haven't seen before. Prosecutors say that video captures him committing the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. But his defense argues the evidence seized from Mangione was obtained after unconstitutional searches. This suppression hearing, swelling now to more than a week, will define what the jury sees at trial as both sides prepare for that big moment. We'll break down the video with our experts as we take a look at the latest in this saga. But first, when 22-year-old Rebecca Park disappeared in early November, many hoped it was a horrific misunderstanding. 3 weeks later, her body was found deep in Michigan forest. She was 38 weeks pregnant. Investigators say she'd been lured to the woods by relatives, stabbed and forced to lie wounded while her unborn child was brutally cut from her womb. Both lives lost in a brutal act of betrayal. The community's grief turned to outrage, signs reading "Justice for Rebecca" line the streets, and prayers for her unborn baby fill the air. A family destroyed, innocence stolen in darkness. Tonight, the latest gruesome details from this tragic investigation.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us. Let's talk about the concept of adoption. And you think about this concept, it's amazing when it works, right? Absolutely amazing. You have a child who's in a situation where the child cannot survive. Either you have parents who can't take care of the child, parents who don't want to take care of the child, parents who are really young, parents who may have lost their lives. And then another family steps forward and says, I'll raise that child as my own. I will replace the biological family that's unable to do the job. We'll step in, raise the child, provide for the child, nurture that child into adulthood. And we've seen it over and over again. There's so many incredible stories out there about how adoption works. Let's talk about Rebecca Park. She was adopted as a child, raised by an adoptive family, and they cared for her. They loved her. They took her from being a child who was in a really bad situation and gave her a life and an opportunity. But something else we know about adoption. When children get to a certain age, they wonder about their biological family. They wonder about their biological mom. Do they have any siblings? And if you're like me and you're online and you see some of these stories where children are reunited with their biological families and they learn the stories, the struggles, the sacrifice, and then there's this incredible reunion, the warmth just oozing off of the screen, right? Those stories are amazing too. And then when the families can all get along together, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. I get it. Courtney is Rebecca's mom. Rebecca got reunited with Courtney. It's not one of those videos that you watch on your phone. It's not one of those stories. It'll make you cry, but for all the wrong reasons. Courtney and her husband are the ones accused of murder. The murder of Rebecca, who just wanted to be reunited with her biological mother. And that reunion resulted in her death, the death of the child she was carrying for 38 weeks. This is awful. Take a look. I'm going to share with you part of the probable cause affidavit. There's a lot of details in there, but here's some of the things that it seems the accused are admitting here. Eventually, Courtney admitted that she cut the baby out of Rebecca in an attempt to save him so she could take him to Rich, who is Rebecca's fiance. What? When she cut the baby, think about this, she's cutting out her own grandchild. When she cut the baby out, Courtney said that Rebecca was still conscious. Oh my. And Bradley, who's her husband, was holding the knife to her throat. She told Rebecca to lay back, your baby is going to die. Once the baby was out, she said Bradley slit Rebecca's throat with the knife. Bradley said that the baby stayed in the cooler that night on the back porch. Think about that now. The baby that's cut out is put in a cooler on the back porch. He now reported it was Wednesday, November 5th, 2025, when the items were placed into dumpsters, specifically because Thursday was garbage day. That's how this reunion went for Rebecca with her biological mother, who's now accused of murdering her, taking the life of her unborn grandchild, Rebecca's baby. I want to get some more information from this. Joining us, anchor and reporter for 9 and 10 News in Cadillac, Michigan, Jodi Miesen is back with us. Jodi, great to have you back. Thank you so much. I want to get to some parts of the rest of the story, but I think one thing to me that's not super clear, and I think the folks watching would want a little clarity, if there is clarity, because it's a confusing situation. The nature of these relationships in Rebecca's life, her biological mom, the stepfather, her fiance, and her sister, who has also been arrested and charged in relation to some of the activities here. What can you tell us about the relationships here of those folks and Rebecca?
You know, when you're pouring through the court documents, what's really interesting is that this is just a really messy case. There seems to be, Kimberly Park also mentioned having a sexual relationship with Richard Failer. Courtney also mentioned in those court documents that she had a sexual relationship with Richard at some point. And she actually said that that was part of the motive. She's accusing that Bradley is the one that actually murdered Rebecca. And the only thing that she did was try to save the baby. So she was trying to play it off as this was kind of a revenge plot, and that Bradley was also upset about Richard turning him in for a crime that he ended up doing some jail time for. But it's hard to wrap your mind around the fact that there's all these relationships going on that you wouldn't think that a biological mom or a sister would do to a family member.
No, messy, I think, is the best way to describe it, Jodi. When you say messy, I think that's the best way to describe it. So who's the father of the baby?
Supposedly Richard. That's what we were told. I don't think Becca, as far as I know, she wasn't having other relationships. It seems like Richard was the one having relationships with other people, and Courtney as well. She was married. Now, she was at some point was going to get a divorce from Bradley, but she stopped those proceedings right before those were supposed to happen. So yeah, the court documents, I got to tell you, they were worse than what we actually imagined. Now, Courtney, at one point, she did mention that they actually didn't take the baby until after Rebecca was dead, but then later on she admitted that Rebecca was alive. So it's really hard to wrap your mind around everything that's going on. There's a lot of conflicting statements. If you look through the documents themselves, the story seems to change from time to time. So I know that they had their probable cause conference hearings today, but those were actually delayed for Bradley and Courtney to give the prosecutor more time to go through the evidence because there is so much of it and there's so many conflicting statements.
Conflicting statements, confusing relationships. How about Rebecca and her sister? What did they have any relationship growing up? Do we know?
Yeah.
Did they meet only as adults, or they knew each other growing up?
They are, Kimberly herself had told me at one point that there's like 3 days out of the year that they're the same age. So they're really close in age. They were adopted together. Now, Becca was 1 year old at the time, and they had an older brother that was adopted along with Kimberly Becca. So they grew up together, and according to the parents that adopted them, the mom says that they were really close.
And what is the adoptive family saying about all of this? What is their take on this? Because you raise this child, she ends up in adulthood, and then this tragic reunion takes place and turns into a murder. What are they saying?
This was something I think they were trying to prevent. They said that they were dangerous people. They'd been harassed by them over the years, and they were just trying to protect their children. And when she turned 18, she sought them out on their own. But when all this happened, the mom, I don't think she was surprised. You would think that someone would be surprised by something so horrific, but it sounds like the mom has her reasons for thinking that these were dangerous people that her daughter should never have been involved with. And that's why she kept them away from them for all those years.
And do we know how long Rebecca was reunited with her mom before she ends up getting killed?
Well, she was 22 when this all happened. And the mom says that when she turned 18 is when she sought them out. And they had a rocky relationship, though. I mean, even Courtney has said that, and other people have said that as well, that they had a rocky relationship.
And what do we look forward to next in this case and as it proceeds forward? What's the next big event that's going to take place?
So Kimberly, the half-sister, she has not been charged with any crimes related to the murder of Becca. She has been charged with lying to police. She gave them a couple of different stories. She even put the blame on Richard, saying that Richard and another man had killed Becca and taken the body. But at some point, she had also said that it was Courtney and Bradley that killed Becca, and then there was another guy that took the body away. So her story changed quite a bit. And like I said, she did have a relationship with Richard. Not really sure why she was telling all these tales. According to the court documents, she knew what had happened to Becca when she was telling these tales.
Jodi Miesen, 9 and 10 news anchor, Cadillac, Michigan. Always appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, and we'll speak again.
Yep, her probable cause conference got delayed till December, next Tuesday, the 16th. And then just for the Bartholomew's, they will have their probable cause hearing in January. Those were delayed to give the prosecutor, like I said earlier, more time to go through all the evidence.
All right. Thanks so much, Jodi.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me tonight, criminal defense attorney, former head prosecutor, county prosecutor.